Hi everyone, Matt Beckberger from Reveni Labs here. In this video I'm going to demonstrate the new features added in version 1.15 of the Reveni Labs camera tester firmware. One of the things that's been added is a what I call sensor balance and offset, which are features that allow you to adjust the curtain detectors with a little more direct control and a little more granularity to get the last tiny bit of measurement error ironed out. To do this, you're going to need a good working camera, ideally a vertical metal curtain shutter in a modern SLR that works reliably at 1/1000th of a second. I like to use this Minolta Alpha 9. The camera doesn't need to be perfect, but the more accurate that it is, the easier the process will be. First step is to run the regular calibration procedure. So place the sensor head at the light source, and then enter the menu, go to the calibration page, and click the center button. If you're calibrating in a high brightness environment and you don't have the fabric shade on the front of the tester, you should shield the room light with your hand just to minimize any error in the calibration, particularly when it checks the low brightness EV levels. After calibration is finished, make sure that the balance and offset values that are shown in the calibration page on the menu are set to 0. They may default to some other number because of the previous firmware having already been on this unit. And so just make sure that they're set to 0.0. I'm going to demonstrate the process for setting the balance on the sensor. So make sure the camera is set for 1/1000th of a second, and make sure in the menu that you've set the shutter direction accordingly, vertical or horizontal. Like I said, I do recommend using a vertical metal blind shutter. The process is place the sensor at the back of the camera with the cable exiting on the right side. Fire the shutter and observe the difference between the bottom and the top values. In this case 1.15 and 1.18. Then flip the sensor over so the cable is coming out on the left side. Fire the shutter and observe, in this case, the bottom now shows 1.18 and the top now shows 1.15. So the numbers flipped. This actually indicates that this sensor doesn't need any balancing because the error flipped with the sensor head. That means the error is in the camera itself. If the error had remained the same, even though the sensor head had been flipped, that would mean that it's error in the sensor head because the camera tester does not know which way the sensor is being oriented. We're using that effect to determine error in the head from error in the camera. So every time I flip it, you'll notice it says there's 0.04 EV error topwise. When I flip the sensor over, now it's reading 0.03 error bottomwise. The next step is to determine the offset. So if I'm using this camera as a reference camera and I'm saying that this camera has a good 1/1000th speed, the tester is reading 1.15 milliseconds at the middle. That's telling me I need to set an offset of negative 0.15 in the calibration menu to bring it to 1.00 milliseconds. So I'm going to enter the menu, go to the calibration page, go down to the offset setting, change it to negative 0.15, go back up to the top option, switch back to curtain shutter mode, press enter. Now when I fire the shutter, the middle is reading 1.0, bottom is also reading 1.0, top is reading 1.01. That's perfectly acceptable. I'm going to change the camera speed to a faster speed now. I'm going to switch it to 1/2000th. I would expect 0.5 milliseconds middle time. 0.50. Gonna try 4,000. I would expect 0.25 milliseconds. I'm getting 0.32. Oh, sorry, I had it on 3200. 0.25 milliseconds. Change it to 1/8000th. I would expect 0.12, 0.11, 0.12. And then I'm going to turn it all the way up. 1/10,000th, we've got 0.09. And 1/12,000th, 0.08. So, and all three detectors are firing, so there's no concern that this camera has any capping or anything like that. It's reading accurately on all, or it's getting a reading on all three detectors, which at that speed, the traveling slit between the two curtains is very thin, so any mechanical error or mismatch in the curtains is going to cause some evident effects in the shutter times. One number is reading a little low. If I switch to fractional, it's showing 1/8930. But the amount of error that actually is only 30 microseconds. So it's a very small error in terms of true linear time, just that when shown as a fraction, the error sort of appears amplified. Further testing can be done with other cameras. If you've got several modern cameras that you believe would be in good function, you can do some cross-checking. I'm going to do a quick check here of a Voigtlander Bessa. It's about 20 years old, and I don't know the service history. I'm going to check it at 1 second first. It's reading 1.038 on all three detectors. And I'm going to try it at 1/1000th. It's reading 1.22, 1.19, 1.04. I'm going to try flipping the sensor over like I did during the balancing test. See if the error flips or if the error remains the same. And the error mostly flipped. The numbers changed a little bit, but the errors, the number at the top here is now lower than the number at the bottom. It went from 0.16 error bottom to 0.16 top. So the error is flipping with the head, which means the error is in the camera itself. And at a speed of 1/2000th, this camera reads a little slow. It only reads 0.92 and I would have expected 0.50. But otherwise performs well. Like the curtains are moving with fairly good consistency. They're just a little slower than they're supposed to be. At 1/500th, it's a small error. Curtain sync errors is very low. 1/20th of a stop. And the exposure time is about 10% longer than it ought to be. At 1/500th, it should be 2 milliseconds. It's at 2.2. So a very slight overexposure. But not something that would prevent this camera from being usable in its current condition. So that's how you set the offset and balance, which is a new function available in version 1.14 and 1.15. You can contact me if you have any issues or questions, and we'll work it out. So please send me an email at matt@reveni-labs.com, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Thanks for watching.